You know, what happened today is unlike anything that our nation's capital has seen during a transition of power. I heard somebody today reference the War of 1812, that was the last time this sort of violence occurred in the capital. The War of 1812, Jesus Christ. It literally interrupted this riot today by the dirtbags, this constitutional acceptance of the election victory of Joe Biden. So the filthy pig, the rotten subhuman Donald Trump, who has caused hostility and anger and rage and sickness and death and economic meltdown and divisions for 4 years, is ending his destruction of this republic with his little explosion that he's caused of anger and disorder and violence. And I'm sure the people who own his ass in the Kremlin are just gleeful tonight. Just absolutely fucking gleeful. Look what our boy has done. And surely before the uprising by this mob of assholes today, Trump had declared at a so-called Save America rally, quote, "We will never give up." Jesus Christ. "We will never concede." You don't concede when there's theft involved. "Our country's had enough. We will not take it anymore. And that's what this is all about," end quote. And the crowd then started chanting, "Fight for Trump, fight for Trump." What the fuck? And Trump's comments about the Supreme Court when he was giving his little speech to cause insurrection in this country, when he was giving it this morning or around noon, whenever it was, when he blasted the Supreme Court for not hearing his bullshit claims twice. "I appointed 3 of them, and they show their gratitude this way." And all of that is lost on the dirtbags, the scum, the filth, these white boys, these white scum who stormed the Capitol today, all 10, 20,000 of them. They would agree with Trump that since he appointed 3 Supreme Court justices, their loyalty is to him, not to the Constitution. Oh, they took an oath. Oh, who the fuck cares about an oath? And this filthy little piglet who squirted out of one of Trump's many wives, Donald Trump Jr., and the walking cat piss, Eric Trump, stood there at that rally this morning screeching at Republican lawmakers for not standing up for their filthy, degenerate father. Trump Jr., who squirted out of one of Trump's wives, said, "The people who did nothing to stop the steal, this gathering should send a message to them. This isn't their Republican Party anymore. This is Donald Trump's Republican Party," end quote. You little fucker. Let me tell you something, Junior. Don't even use the word Republican when you talk about the filth that now follows your degenerate father, you little piece of trash. You're Christian fascists. And you will not succeed, little Mr. Squirt Trump. Jesus. And Peter Baker writes, to many Republicans, that was a problem. Even as Mr. Trump's presidency was slipping away from him, Republicans increasingly turned on him. stewing over the Tuesday's runoff elections in Georgia, that, by the way, has elected 2 senators. And the votes he was forcing lawmakers to take for or against the results of a Democratic election. That Trump was forcing? Trump wasn't forcing. You can't force someone through words. Maybe if your baby is being held with a gun to its head, and then you can be forced to do something, I reckon. But these disgusting former Republicans who are now Christian fascists, they're going to cop a plea now and say, well, we were forced to do it. You cowardly little son of a bitches. You were forced to do it. Peter Baker writes, even Mr. Pence and Senator Mitch McConnell of Kentucky, who have been among the most loyal supporters of Mr. Trump for 4 years, finally broke with him in a decisive way. You cowardly 2 bastards, you. Mr. Pence rebuffed the president's demand that he, Pence, use his role as presiding officer over the Electoral College count to reject electors for Mr. Biden. And Mr. McConnell gave a forceful speech repudiating Mr. Trump's effort to overturn the election. No, I heard the speech. It was not forceful, Peter. It was the typical wishy-washy shit that you have come to expect. Certainly you have, Mr. Baker, from Mitch McConnell. McConnell said in his little speech before the rioters, the dirtbags, overran the Capitol, quote, if this election were overturned by mere allegations from the losing side, our democracy would enter a death spiral. You turtle-looking son of a bitch, you have already put this democracy on a course for a death spiral. How dare you come up with comments like that now, McConnell? You son of a bitch, you have been trying every moment that you have had the power in the Senate, going all the way back to Obama days. You have made your effort to destroy this republic. And now you have the audacity to stand there and claim that something else has tried to destroy the republic? You filthy pig. You could have told your caucus, your gangsters, your Christians, to vote for conviction when Trump was impeached. But you didn't, did you? You son of a bitch. And according to the Times, Pence rejected the president, just minutes after Trump continued to publicly pressure him to do what even the president's longtime lawyer, the Jew-turned-Christian Jay Sekulow, said the vice president did not have the right or the power to do, and that was to reject the electors of swing states that Republicans lost. And before the dirtbags descended on the Capitol, as they're listening to the filthy Donald Trump, they heard him say this, quote, I hope Mike is going to do the right thing. I hope so. I hope so. Because if Mike does the right thing, we win the election. Oh, my God. And then just minutes later is when Pence released a letter saying he did not have the power to do what the president wanted him to do. He wrote this, quote, vesting the vice president with unilateral authority to decide presidential contests would be entirely antithetical to that constitutional design. It is my considered judgment that my oath to support and defend the Constitution constrains me from claiming unilaterally any authority to determine which electoral votes should be counted and which should not. End quote. The cowardly pissant and Trump fillator for 4 years. God, your mouth must be tired, Mr. Pence. That was his statement. What an awful day. What an awful day. What a display of how white people in this country, I know I'm white, so are you probably if you're listening to this, although I don't know what your race is. I really don't give a shit. I'm talking about Well, I'm talking about white people. Did you see any black folk rioting today? Did you see any of these dirtbags that were African American? Just one? Did you see any? But what white people did today, I think it's a harbinger of things to come. I can't help it. I mean, I don't want to think that. I want things to be okay. I want there not to be a pandemic. I want Trump to be gone, just fucking gone. I want his degenerate, filthy family to be gone. I don't give a shit if they wind up in prison or at the bottom of a fucking river. I just want them gone. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcasts. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com, and never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.